Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, Manshi, you can go start. Yeah, start.
Hello, everyone. This is Mansi from Team Learn for Cause. Welcome yet to the another session of Women of Code Summit 2022. Today, we are having Lalith Kishore with us. Lalith sir is experienced business leader in drug science, genomic science, and cell technology. Also, 6+ years experience with contract research organization BioServe in the US. Also, a great hands 18+ year industry experience in the healthcare, life sciences, and in leadership roles in different applications. He's also a CEO with PNL, BD, and MA responsibility with Reprocell. Also handled various projects include Indian Rice Genome Project, India's first clinically pre-matomic project under Atmanirbhar Bharat for indigenization of diagnosis in India. He's also a great TEDx speaker, expertise in various other fields. So, before a further ado, let's welcome him for sharing some views on investing in next generation medtech. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mansi, for that presentation. So, very, very happy to kind of be with all of you today. Um, so, very quickly, and if I can start to share my pitch with you, and instead of just talking, but first a little bit about myself before I start to share my pitch with you. Yes, I was in the US for a while, and then from there I came back to India, and I worked with multiple different things, including the Rice Genome Project, India's first proteomics project, and so many other projects with GE Healthcare Lifesciences before I moved to become CEO of a company. And I was CEO of a company called Reprocell. That was for about 2 years. And 2 years ago, something happened. And this time, and nowadays, and now almost everyone knows what happened 2 years ago. So it's not necessary that, this happened to me 2 years ago, or this happened to you 2 years ago. It happened to all of us 2 years ago. What happened to all of us 2 years ago was that we've all been struck by a global pandemic. And so as a part of the global pandemic, like everyone else, even I was affected. But the way that I was affected was in a very missionary mission kind of a way, is because I got the opportunity to work for a very amazing program, and this program was aimed at indigenization of diagnostics for COVID. So the specific program was set up by the Office of the Principal Science Advisor to the Government of India, and the idea was to indigenize diagnostics. And at this point in time, I will start to share my slides with you so that you can actually see. How do I share my slides? One second. From my computer, PowerPoint and PDF. Okay. Just 1 second, guys. I will upload my files and I'll just share it with you. Can you see my slides? I can see that my slides are being processed. So just give me a moment.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Don't worry, sir. Just share the screen with a button, camera slash mic, just near to that.
Okay. Okay.
And yes, sir,
And
we have added on the stream.
1 second. It says audio virtual background, advanced options. 1 second. You want me to go to, oh, there you go. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen now? Yes, I can see it. So you must be able to see it. Um, yeah. So I am working for a project right now, which is called indigenization.
Yes, yes.
Yes, you should be able to see it. So I work for a project right now, which is called the Index. This is for indigenization of diagnostics. And today my aim is to kind of tell you a little bit about the project and see if I can create a certain amount of enthusiasm in the entire audience here in the field of medical technologies and diagnostics. There's a lot of things that we did for indigenization of diagnostics in the last 2 years, and unfortunately or fortunately, almost every one of us has a friend or a relative or someone who has suffered from COVID. So I'm pretty sure that you would also know these things that I'm about to present to you, unfortunately. But the first and foremost thing is, what are the objectives of the mission? The objectives of the mission is indigenization. That's number one objective. Why? Because at the start of the pandemic, almost 90-95% of all diagnostic kits that were being used, which is RT-PCR kits or rapid kits that were being used for COVID, all of these kits were imported. Most of them were imported from either the US or parts of Europe, and largely from China and Korea. Did we not have kits? We had kits, but these kits were not optimized. They were kind of working in the lab a little bit. Kabhi they work and kabhi they don't work, and it's not the best of the scenario for us. And then one of the things that we also had an issue with was that even if there were a few manufacturers, we did not have the scale, because these people were ready to make about 100 kits a day, 200 kits a day. But we had to quickly ramp up to a stage where not manufacture 100, 200 kits per day, but actually we were to test about 1 million, which is 10 lakh people every day in this country needed to be tested. 10 lakh per day means you can imagine how many in a month, or how many in like a month after month after month. So we needed to scale up at least 10,000 times than what we were, in order to be able to serve 10,000 to 1 lakh times our efficiency. We had to work in order to scale up and produce these for the world, right? And then the last thing is, a lot of these kits were not commercialized. I mean, they were there as kits, but they were not commercial kits, like proper packed, packaged, regulatory tested, qualified kits. They were just using them offhand. So these were the objectives of the mission, and with this mission we started to do it. And this is where I think that you will get some numbers which all of you may or may not recognize. But let me tell you, there were in the beginning of the pandemic, the government of India was buying kits at 1800 rupees per test. 1800 rupees per test. Today the government of India gets the tests for less than 50 rupees. Today it's almost like 20 rupees actually, at 20 rupees per test. I don't know if you remember, but as a patient, when we first started doing RT-PCR was 4,500 to 5,000 rupees you had to pay in the hospital or in the diagnostic clinic for this test. Today it is 500 rupees, and you can even make it lesser. You can make it even 100 rupees, I think, right? I do not know if you see, this meant that a large number of things, including your premixes, your amidite, so many chemical components that went in, the prices and the costs were brought down. These things were possible because of an indigenization effort. Today, we can assure you that close to about 80% of all the tests are made in India, which was 95% were coming from outside India. Today, about 80% tests are being made in India. And this has been possible by a huge effort which was put together, which is the indigenization of diagnostics effort. And that's where our team comes in. Today, for example, you see that manufacturing capacity has grown to such a level that our manufacturing capacity is able to meet the demand. You see the pink swab that you see is what we need, and the blue tube that you see is what we are manufacturing. So we were barely meeting our needs last year, but slowly we have come to a stage where we are not only meeting the entire needs of our population for testing, but we have actually exceeded that. And today, we are even able to export our kits to other countries. And this has become possible in just 18 months. In 18 months, we have become a country that doesn't just get kits from outside, but we become a country that actually is now able to give diagnostics to the entire world, which is a very great thing, because previously we were able to do that with drugs and pharmaceuticals. You all know the story of vaccines. In vaccines also we were able to do that, but in the case of diagnostics we were never really able to do that. But today, even in diagnostics, we have become a diagnostic supplier to the world. I wouldn't say we have become yet. I think we have long ways to go before we become like drugs or vaccines, but we are already starting to export to other countries. And this is a huge, huge step. Now, when we noticed this, when we said we could do this with COVID, we said, why don't we use this as an opportunity and expand this to all diagnostics? Why limit yourself only to COVID tests? We'll do it for COVID, we'll do it for malaria, we'll do it for dengue, we will do it for chikungunya, we will do it for all infectious diseases, tuberculosis maybe, and we will also do it for oncology testing, we will do it for other kinds of tests too. And today Index has grown into a force where we are not just working with COVID tests, but we are working with close to about 200 diagnostics companies, indigenous diagnostics companies in this country, that are working with RT-PCR, that are working with rapid tests, that are working with LAMP tests, that are working with antibody tests, that are working with T-cell based tests. So many tests that you do in your regular pathology, as well as advanced pathology like molecular biology based pathology. We're bringing all of this together to make India not just a self-sufficient nation in terms of diagnostics, but also a net exporter of diagnostics kits. And then we said, okay, you know what, we have diagnostic kits, but do we have diagnostics devices? Do we have machines? So we said, let's get on the machines also. So now we are also working with devices that can actually make India a diagnostics superpower. It's an example of a situation where we've taken a very adverse situation, and we've used this as a humongous opportunity, where it's not just so it's not me who did it. I mean, I did a little bit of bringing things together. It's about 200 companies that came together that built this diagnostics superpower that we are, and that are going to make us a huge superpower in the coming days. That is where the diagnostics field is headed. And that's why, as you go through the process of learning education, it is very important for you to understand that while there are so many fields out there, and I know that people talk about information technology, people talk about financial services, so many other things that are up and coming. I think one field that everyone should look at is medical technology, devices, life sciences, biotechnology, and diagnostics in specific, because companies have grown tremendously in the last year. And now these companies are not going away anywhere. The first time, my friends, when I heard the term RT-PCR, okay, when I heard the term RT-PCR, none of you was born. I can tell you, I can see the age of the people around me. I can tell you that a lot of you people were not even born when I heard the word RT-PCR. Just yesterday, I was telling someone that the first time I did RT-PCR was in the year 1995. Okay, and yet it took so many years for that to become a very popular term these days, right? But now almost every corner of the country is RT-PCR. And RT-PCR is not just some operation, it's a machine, it's a box. It costs 20 lakh rupees to put up an RT-PCR machine and another 10 lakh rupees to put an RT-PCR lab together. 2 years ago, we had 400 RT-PCR machines in this country. 400 RT-PCR machines. Today, we have 45,000 RT-PCR machines in the country. Let us say that we are blessed and COVID disappears. What will people do with these RT-PCR machines? There are at least a few thousand, not one or two tests, a few thousands of tests that can be performed on RT-PCR machines using other kits for malaria, chikungunya, dengue, other infectious diseases. There are 1,000 oncology tests, different cancers, different tests. There are tests that can be done on mothers, infants, for fertility, for obesity, for diabetes, for cardio, for liver. There are hundreds and hundreds of tests that we were trying to please push those machines to the villages and the towns of this country that now are just there. So you are ready with an ecosystem that can actually now do all of these modern testing. And I think that's the reason why you should actually consider in different kinds, in different ways, you should consider that diagnostics is a great place to be. In terms of science, we need people who are in the science of things, life sciences. If you are a zoologist, if you are in microbiology, in genetics, in biotechnology, in various life sciences subjects, then you could contribute to the science of this business. You could also be in the engineering part of this business, and engineering is mostly biotech engineering, but you could be in this business. And we need informaticians, and I don't mean the software programmers alone. We need bioinformaticians and bioinformatics people, but that's the core science of it. And sometimes people say, okay, this is the core science of it, but I am not into that. But the ecosystem needs a lot more. The ecosystem needs a lot more people. For example, when I showed you those numbers and when I crunched those numbers, when we do the costing, when we do the pricing, the first and foremost people we need is finance people. We need to know how to do costing and how to do manufacturing costs of these kinds of equipment. So we need finance people, but we need logistics people. Do you know how important logistics has become in the last 2 years? That swab has to come from that village or town in a temperature controlled way. It has to find its way to the RT-PCR machine. But wait. That kit has to find its way from the industry where it is manufactured in a temperature controlled way to the RT-PCR machine. And both of these have to meet so that the test can actually happen. This is an immense logistics effort. We need electronics people for devices. We need polymer people, plastics people who can come in and help us make those vials, help us make those swabs. I am sure that a lot of you people have been tested for COVID right now. That swab, which is poked inside your nose, and then they put it in a plastic tube. We did not have those. We did not manufacture those. That swab, at the end of the swab, there is a little piece of dacron, which is like nylon. It's a fiber that actually collects the nasopharyngeal material. That swab was costing 60 to 70 rupees per swab last year. About 18 months ago, it was 60 to 70 rupees. Today, we make it for 1 rupee 25 paisa, right? And that is put inside a tube, and the tube has a little bit of liquid. It's called the viral transport media. It's a VTM liquid. That VTM liquid was costing us close to 200 rupees. Today, it's like, I think, 1 rupee or 2 rupees, but we're manufacturing it ourselves. And all of these things need to be transported across the board and again transported back to these labs. This is a logistics effort, and we need tremendous logistics effort there. We need mechanical engineers to do RNA extraction machines. We need chemistry people. Simple chemistry of that vial in which this swab is put was not known to us, and now we need so many such chemicals. So we need those people. We need industrial engineers. We need people who can actually help us manufacture this at a humongously high scale, because we do not have enough of those. And we need software people. Can you imagine the software effort that it takes to actually collate all this data, collect all this data, present all this data, store all this data? At the end of the day, with the switch of a button, you can get your vaccination data or your testing data on your phones. Most diagnostics companies need to have very, very high-end software engineers working for them. And finally, if you don't know any of these, we need people who can go out and do business and sell this for us. So in a lot of ways, diagnostics industry is definitely looking up. It's coming up in a very huge way and is looking for quality people. It's looking for great people to come in and help us build this industry. In terms of achieving that excellence, we need quality excellence. We need better and better quality of kits to come out. We need the kind of clinical expertise. We need the chemistry expertise, biologics. I'm not saying biology, but biologics expertise to come out. And that becomes extremely important for the country as a whole. And then finally, we definitely need people who are integrators, who can bring all of this together and then build a company or build a system, build a process. For example, we had world's leading organization, TCS. They came and helped us build this huge portal on which you can find indigenized diagnostics to go with. So these are the kinds of expertise that this particular field has suddenly opened up in the last 2 years. So contrary to a lot of things that people say, which may not be very, very positive, actually in the area of diagnostics, I think we have actually made some humongous progress, and we have actually found spaces where we can use talent and where you can use capability of the entire country. At different stages, integration with technologies is needed. And this is from start to finish. When we are developing kits, all the way to when you're distributing these kits across the country. And this is a process. If you can imagine that we have 200 companies, each company looking at least about 300-400 people on average to work in the ecosystem, you know that close to about 10 to 15 lakh jobs are going to be created only from this ecosystem in the next 1 or 2 years. And this also, and 200 companies sounds like a big number, but it's not a big number. We need at least 1,000 companies like this in this country. So you can imagine the number of jobs, the number of opportunities that indigenized diagnostics will create alone as a small sector, will create across the country in the process of either development. In the process of development, we need hardcore scientists, right? So we need people who understand the technology, who develop these kits or develop these instrumentation, etc. But we need people in the approval process, someone who understands regulations, someone who understands how to get the stamp of quality, whether it is ISO or GMP or CDSCO or ICMR or US FDA approvals for their products. Someone who can help in manufacturing and scale up of these products, and someone who turns around and looks inside. Because see, look, it's very easy to manufacture things these days. All you have to do is you have to have a friend in China, call them and they will ship it to you. In fact, if you want them to put make in India stamp, there'll be someone in China who's ready to do that also for you. But that's not indigenization. Indigenization is look around, find people within the ecosystem and grow the ecosystem as you grow. Imagine what happens when there is a huge car factory like the Tatas, for example, or Hyundai or Honda or any of these car factories. About 100-kilometer radius around the car factory, there will be hundreds and hundreds of companies which will be manufacturing components that go to these industries. And that's how components grow and other people also grow. And then finally, distribution. How do you make sure? Do you know, for example, that there are companies in China that are having a distributor in every one of the 750 districts of India? Okay. But if I am in Bangalore and if I want to sell something in Mysore, then I may not have a distributor. So another big opportunity is to become distributors of these indigenous companies across the country. These are some of the opportunities that whether we we see it. It is definitely opening up, and those are places where you actually see, you will see growth, right? So one of my last slides, but I really want to take a moment and tell you that, we are in a very, very uniquely positioned space. We have the opportunity to grow this industry in multiple ways. We have, at the indigenization program, we are not willing to stop here. We are going to engage, we're going to expand, we're going to excel, and we're definitely going to endure. We're going to keep on going. What are we doing? We are engaging with multiple MSMEs. We're bringing more and more medium-sized and small, mid-sized companies into the fore. There are a lot of, drug companies and, pharmaceutical companies which may be interested in diagnostic. We're saying, come, make diagnostics also for us. And we are building our digital platform. Remember that, 1 year ago, Swiggy and Zomato were not as big as they are right now. And that's because digital platforms are growing big time. And we are also trying to build digital platforms for most of the diagnostics. Today, diagnostics digital platforms are a huge endeavor in themselves. You get a test, you give a test, you want a test, you book a test on your phone, someone comes and collects your sample, and then you get your results. You share that with your doctor. The doctor gives you a prescription, or you actually have a meeting with your doctor. Everything is happening on the phone, and there is not just one company but multiple companies enabling this to happen. So those digital platforms are just going, just big, and we are going to be part of that. There is a huge amount of academic interest that has come up in this, because when we first went out and said, so, how many people know what is RT-PCR, for example? A very small set of people knew it. So how do we kind of increase the knowledge of diagnostics, increase the understanding of diagnostics, increase the teaching of diagnostics across academia? That's something that we're going to do. And we're building networks. I'm very glad to have kind of met this network. If 10 people are listening to me, 100 people are listening to me, if you know, and that is my expanded network right now, go back and spread the word that this is a very, very important, a very viable kind of a place to be, and increase the network of people who are talking about diagnostics. We'll continue to expand, because we're not just stopping here. There are novel technologies. RT-PCR, like I told you, is 25 years plus old. So there are novel technologies, and we are going to get into this, we're going to get into newer and newer technologies. We need to involve global players now. Global buyers need to come in, and we will continue to increase our outreach to and expand and expand and expand, and meet more, and connect with more and more people who will buy into Indian companies and indigenous technologies. We will also expand the expertise, right? We are getting more and more experts into the ecosystem, and that is one thing that we will do. There is also important, it is also very important for us to excel. Indian software industry, for example, has a stamp of achievement, a stamp of capability. When someone is an Indian company is doing the informatics, people have their level of confidence, which we want people to feel when they use an Indian diagnostic kit, right? And for that, we will set up a huge quality regime. And you know what quality regimes are, like the ISO or the GMP or the US FDA. We will set up a regime for diagnostics in India, so that anyone who sees that will definitely see that, okay, they will say that this is an Indian diagnostic, it will work very well, right? And we will have our own standards, our own validation standards, and we will also establish globalization support. Companies which want to grow in the country and then want to expand beyond the country, we will put in support for them, right? And lastly, we will have more and more institutions, governments, industry partners, institutional partners, such as this particular group here itself, so that we can all together work and take the Indian diagnostics industry forward and into the new phase, where we will be able to meet both local, national, as well as global challenges. So that is what I have for you, my friends, today. I hope I have given you a little bit of an idea of what we are doing, And I hope that I would also told you what is there out there for you in the medical technologies and diagnostics arena. Uh, if you have any questions for me, I'll be very happy to take them. Hello.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Actually, your session was great, and we have few questions coming up in the comments. First of all, I would like to take all those questions.
Can't hear you, Aashirwad.
Okay, can you hear me
Okay, but I
now,
have a
sir?
question. Sir, you have huge work experience in GE Healthcare. How did it help you in building your present company? CCamp is not a company, and I did not build CCamp. CCamp is a humongous institution, and I did not build it. It has been built by revered scientists. What I built is a small program for Atmanirbhar diagnostics within CCamp called CCamp Index. And that experience comes largely from understanding molecular biology. It comes from understanding genomics, proteomics, cell biology over the last 20, 25 years. But like I said, at the end of the day, what it takes is a huge network of people to put them all together to build a national program for indigenization of diagnostics. So that is what I particularly did. And this program, obviously, every step of the way, everything helps, but most importantly, two things help. One is obviously the learning along the process about different technologies that help. The other thing is the network helped. The number of people that I met, that I kept in touch with in the scientific community, that helped, because then bringing both those together was possible within this program.
So we have
What are
another
the
question. What
examples
are the
of
examples of
major challenges we face in medtech sector from Siddharth Patnaik? Siddharth, we could have one session, and this session took about 35 minutes when I was talking. That session could take about an hour. Okay. And maybe it will be incomplete. Maybe we can have one semester course on that. Okay. Oh, and it still doesn't stop. But where do we start? Okay. In medtech sector, where do we start? Okay. I sat here and said, great success. We are doing COVID testing with our own kids, right? Suppose you got COVID. I don't know. Some of you might have got COVID also. After that, what is the doctor prescribing? Okay, he will say, go get yourself a complete blood picture, IL-6 or IL-8, ferritin, D-dimer, right? CRP. All these tests he will write for you. All those tests we are getting from China. That is our next challenge. All those tests we are getting from China. Okay. Pregnancy test, we are getting it from China. Pregnancy tests are, I want you to go back home thinking about this, and especially think about this just as you are about to eat dinner today. Think about it. Pregnancy tests are created, using a particular protein enzyme component that actually comes from urine. Okay. Urine of pregnant women. Okay. Guess what? In India, we are importing urine from China. That is our current status. To make pregnancy kits, we are importing urine from China. So you can think of the challenge. TB is one of the biggest challenges. AIDS is a big challenge. Malaria, chikungunya is a huge challenge. Antimicrobial resistance, which you're not hearing about, where you're infected but no antibiotic works on you, is a huge challenge that we are going to be facing in the next few years, bigger than the pandemic. There are multiple medtech challenges in this country. Geriatric care is a huge challenge. Infant care is a huge challenge. Pregnant women, handling them in rural areas, big challenge. Multiple challenges that we have. What will be the role of biotechnology in shaping affordable medical industry? Humongous, very big, the role of biotechnology, because what has happened is that most of the intellectual property, most of the novel technologies that were developed in the last 15-20 years have come out of the West. But if we can have indigenously developed technologies, then both the cost will be in our control, the quality will be world class, and the access. Okay, Cost and quality, some people are willing to think about cost because they understand that, if we don't have quality, people won't buy. Okay. If we don't bring down the cost, then Asia and Africa may not buy. So even global companies keep their eye on these two. Access. How do you make sure that your technology reaches that village or that particular remote place? Cost, quality, and access. All three things, only indigenously developed minds can think about all of these three and come up with solutions that are local for local solutions, but eventually locally developed, solutions that will become global. So biotechnology is huge influence in making the medical industry more and more affordable. One more thing about biotechnology is that, see, our medical kind of the way that we're thinking about is we have to detect first and then treat, right? Medical industry is mostly about treat, and then now slowly I'm talking about diagnostics. So we're saying, okay, detect and then treat. So detect is always cheaper than treating. Detecting something is, diagnostic test is small, treatment is very huge. But I think that if you actually go even one step further, predict. If you start to predict and prevent and then detect and then treat, in the area of prediction, I think that's where the biotech guys can come in and help a little better. Prediction is much cheaper. So that's where I think biotechnology will help. Biotechnology will not help in treatments as much as it will help in predicting and detecting. And that's where it will be a huge role that biotech will play.
So, sir, do you think that DNA-based technology can become alternative to current medical treatment methods?
Okay. So when you remember that we are in a situation where we still use penicillin, 100 plus years, and we still use penicillin, right? But we have hundreds and hundreds of other antibiotics. Similarly, insulin use will never go down. Okay, it will stay there. One of the things that we have been unable to replace is the simple syringe and the needle, though there are multiple ways of kind of sending it in with patches, derma, nano, all of those things. Similarly, I do not think of it as a replacement or an alternative, but I would say that it is a very viable treatment method that can be applied for specific situations. Cell and regenerative medicine is definitely the future, but specifically to this particular audience and all of you, I want to point out the fact that even with monoclonal antibodies and biopharmaceutical and monoclonal antibody treatments and recombinant DNA kind of treatments, we have a country where people really suffer sometimes to afford one strip of paracetamol. Okay. So if a treatment costs close to about 2 crores, okay, let us say 1 crore in US, $200,000 in US, monoclonal antibody treatment has been brought down to say about $25,000, $30,000, which means if there is a cancer patient who needs monoclonal antibody treatment, previously or depending on foreign companies would have costed him 1 crore. Now it costs him about 20-25 lakh. Okay. Still, the average Indian cannot afford it. Okay. Now, when you look at cell and regenerative medicine, the same treatment that costs upwards of about $1.52 million will cost close to about $300,000, $200,000 in India. So where is the common man going to be left behind? So the role that we will play is in making that treatment available to all. That is where the indigenization cycle has to step in, and more technology has to be developed here so that every component of that treatment becomes much more affordable. But absolutely, it's going to become a very big alternative. How do we deal with people who refuse to cooperate for medical tests? Okay. And this is, look, there is the legal way. Okay. There is the legal way, which is important. See, the important thing is that, and we are all facing this. Okay. Unfortunately, we are not facing it as much as Canada and US with vaccinations. Okay, so in that sense, we are much more educated. But but the important thing is that if someone is refusing a medical test, is this: uh, someone in your home is infected, and people in the rest of the people in the home say, no, I don't need a test, I don't need a test, right? Because they're afraid that otherwise they'll also have to lock themselves up in their rooms for about 7 days or 10 days. Okay, that is one side of the problem. But the other side of the problem is, just in case, out of 100 people, even today, about 3 to 4 people are needing hospitalization. Quite a few people need hospitalization. Out of those people, some people are facing very severe situations even today with Omicron. And tomorrow, we are already 97% Omicron. So you can almost put up one poster and say, coming soon is the next variant, right? So we do not know what the next variant will be and how severe that will be. And if you need to get admitted into a hospital, if you need a procedure or a treatment, you have to be tested. Otherwise, the first thing they will do is a test. Majority of places in the country, the test barely costs about 300 or 400 rupees. And in a lot of places, the primary healthcare centers are offering free tests. So please encourage people to get tested. It is important to get tested because your COVID is not my COVID. It depends on your weight, your age, your gender, your comorbidities, and what severity you get it with. So it's very important to get tested. Just continue to push people to get more and more, testing done. That's it.
Okay, sir. So we are actually on the verge of end of the questions,
I
and
can't
there are
hear
some
you.
appreciation that has been given.
Or is it because?
Again,
Now I can
is
hear
it
you.
so?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
All right.
So
So that
this were all the questions.
how
Okay,
to
we
deal
have
with
another question.
capital.
We have another
Yes,
question.
how to deal with capital. Look, there are multiple startup opportunities. Okay, there are multiple startup opportunities. There is the BIRAC opportunities. There are individual seed funds. There are competitions like the National Biotechnology Entrepreneurship Competition, where close to about 100 companies are given the seed fund. There are multiple companies that invest in small funding. One Radhika Srivastav, you can definitely write to me or get in touch with me over LinkedIn or whatever, and I can direct you to some of the places where you can get it. But just for idea testing and funding, if it is a reasonably good idea, there's multiple opportunities. In fact, when we have competitions and when we think that, okay, let us give 10 prizes, unfortunately we have only enough entries to give 8 prizes, which means that there are still spaces there for good ideas to come up. So get in touch, and I'm sure that you will find multiple opportunities. Find me on LinkedIn or on Twitter, and I can kind of um, share the details. There's multiple places you can go to.
Okay. Sir, he's saying definitely, sir.
Yes,
Fine. I
I
hope,
see
sir,
that.
I'm audible to you right now.
Yes, you are. You are.
Oh, great, sir. Thank you. Okay, so we are on the verge of this session. Thank you so much, sir, with joining with us. We have all done with
Thank
all
you.
those queries which were put in the YouTube. It was great to have you in
Thank you.
this meeting, sir. And I thought,
Okay.
I actually believe that every participant and every viewers, whosoever is actually watching it, they got the complete insights about the medtech, and all those doubts were clear about the participants.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you very
sir.
much, and keep encouraging diagnostics, keep encouraging vaccination, and keep doing the good work that you're doing. Thank you.